All right, thank you, David. Hi, everybody. I'm Michael Zick, life and relationship coach. Thank you, David. Thank you, Denise, for bringing me on. I am also a former front-end engineer of over 8 years prior to making this transition last year, and I actually attended several in-person js.la events. I'm actually a little sad we're not over at Headspace eating gray block pizza right now because that was a ton of fun. So all of them were a ton of fun. It's a great group. Honored to be here. So yes, a life and relationship coach is somebody who coaches people in anywhere from making career transitions, life transitions, figuring out what next steps are for them, figuring out just what to do with anything, if anybody is stuck. And obviously, a focus of mine is relationships, whether that's romantic relationships, work and team relationships, relationships with family. I just love it all. I love communication and helping people solve those people problems. And as Jonathan was saying, people can be harder than code. So, but I love solving those problems. So that's my specialty. So how did I get here? How did I make the big leap from being a front-end engineer to being a life and relationship coach? Well, I heard these words. Oh, there we go. You're fired. Not quite as strong, but the message, the result was the same. I was terminated, let go, shown the door, whatever you want to call it. It didn't work out. And the reason why it ultimately didn't work out, I was told that I just, didn't have the chops to perform at the standard that they wanted as a React engineer. And I know that was part of the equation. I'll admit I'm better with people than I am with software. I think I reached the highest level that I could, and then just it was a struggle for me to go further. So anyway, that was the result. Don't have any hard feelings. Sometimes the universe pushes you in the direction that you need to go when you need to go there, and that's pretty much what happened. So here I am, and this was my belief, the number one result of the termination. And the reason why I say that is because, David, you were talking about mentors and mentees, and the guy that was pretty much assigned to be my mentor, we just did not get along on a personality level. It was just a bad culture fit. And there was, we tried, we both gave it our best, but we just triggered each other. We just sparked strong emotions in each other, and the communication was just off like 99% of the time, and it just didn't turn out to be a good working relationship. So really, it turned out for the best for both of us. So moving forward into solutions, how we can all develop a smoother workplace, a better team environment, communicate more effectively, have more fun at work, and do our best work without that baggage of that conflict, as best as we can. It's always going to happen, but there are ways to mitigate it and make things a little easier. So first of all, one of the biggest factors of success is, hint, it's not your knowledge of React hooks. Even though that will get you pretty far in today's front-end world. It is emotional intelligence, otherwise known as EQ. So you got your IQ and you got your EQ. So as David was also saying, this is a big factor in leveling up, moving from junior to senior. How do you communicate with other engineers? Can you be patient? Can you mentor? Things of that nature. So how do you develop more of it? And another hint, a lot of it is based on hacking your lizard brain. Now that's something that I will dive into in a slide or two here. So what am I referring to here? So the first thing that comes up in a state of conflict, if a trigger is fired. A trigger is this. A trigger is a memory of like a past event, a past painful event, something from childhood, something that happened with mom or dad, your brother, you fell off a bike, whatever happened, the brain stores that, and it's stored in the amygdala. It's the primitive part of our brain, otherwise known as the lizard brain. And it just stores all of that trauma, all of that emotion. It has no like cognitive reflex. It's like pure emotion. And it's so powerful, it just takes over our bodies in a state of panic or fight, flight, freeze. So it was the first to be developed when we were babies, before the prefrontal cortex and all of the other like cognitive functioning as part of our brain. And yeah, and it's responsible for the what protected us as cavemen, or even primitive animals that we evolved from. And it's known as fight, flight, or freeze. Those are the three responses. So if you ever been in an argument and you wanted to like punch them, that's fight. If you wanted to run away, that's flight. If you just stood there like a deer in the headlights, that's freeze. So 5 ways to handle the amygdala hijack. First of all, don't let your lizard brain control your email. Step away from the computer, step away from the phone, the text, all of that. Not a good idea to act in the moments of an amygdala hijack. You're not thinking straight. So ways you can get around it is, first, recognize it. Step 1, recognize, oh my God, my heart's racing, my palms are sweaty, I'm tensed up, I want to do something drastic or say something drastic. Recognize you've been hijacked. Breathe. Take at least 3 deep breaths. And what that does is that actually, from a physiological standpoint, it calms your nervous system down, gets you out of the sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic nervous system, and you get more relaxed when you do that. Third, own your feelings, which means don't put your feelings onto the person you're talking with or having an argument with, because ultimately those are your feelings. That's your trigger. That's part of that emotional intelligence. It's like, okay, what's mine? Well, your feelings are yours. That trigger is yours. Just because they said something, maybe they didn't mean it like that. Maybe it just triggered something from your childhood because that was, that's what you took. That's what you have in you, in your amygdala. Step away if you need to. If it's getting to a point where you think you're going to do something irrational, you can't calm down, you can't think straight, it's best to just say, hey, I need to step away for 20 minutes. 20 minutes is about the time it takes for our nervous system to calm down. I'll be back in 20. Let's continue this conversation when I'm thinking more rationally. And then when you come back, or if you're able to self-regulate, or if you come back, ask for clarification. Say like, hey, I felt hurt, or I felt angry, or I felt whatever emotion that you can name when you said this. Did you mean it like that? When like my coworker asked me, well, what made you write the code like that, or what made you choose that one thing? And I heard, you're a horrible coder, you don't deserve to be here, I don't know why they're paying you, please leave. That's what I interpreted as. It's not what he said, and it may not be what he meant, but that was my interpretation. So ask for clarification. And then remember this, remember NAM, not the war. It's an acronym for not about me. So in terms of taking responsibility for other people's emotions, we're actually not. We're responsible for ours, we're not responsible for theirs. So whenever someone gets emotional or does something out of character, remember, it's not about you, even if you screwed up. Even if you made a mistake, we all do it. Even if you took down the server right before the Memorial Day weekend sale, we do it. And so if somebody flies off the handle, that is their emotional responsibility, not yours. You're responsible for your code, for taking down the server, but they're responsible for their emotions. So how do we communicate more effectively? There's a big concept that I learned in my journey to being a coach, and that is agreements versus expectations. And this is a very powerful concept in communication. So I love this quote. Expectation feeds frustration. It is an unhealthy attachment to people, things, and outcomes we wish we could control, but don't. So let's dive in a little. In creating agreements versus expectations, there's a 4-step process. And the first part of this process is acknowledge the other person. You empathize with whatever they might be feeling or what's going on in their world. Are they having a bad day? You know, is their mom sick? Are they worried? Did they just get reprimanded by the boss? You know, are they responsible for some part of the code base that's really, really frustrating to work with? And acknowledge that and say, hey, you know, I understand you're under a lot of pressure trying to, you know, create this new feature on such a tight deadline, something of that nature. And then you state your thoughts and feelings around the issue and allow the person to empathize with you and say, you know, well, what I'm dealing with is X. You know, I'm trying to create this new page over here and I'm having issues with such and such library and I'm blocked because product and manager, you know, whatever. State your issue, state your feeling, and allow them to empathize with where you're coming from. Then communicate your want or need. Clearly state what you want or need in as few sentences as possible. It doesn't need to be a big essay, you know, or treatise on why you feel this way or why you think, you know, things need to be done a certain way. Just state it clearly. Say like, I need more direction. I need more designs. I need design to give me X, or I need this to be unblocked. And just state it clearly and directly. And then lastly, ask the other person if they agree to do the thing you asked, because a request without an agreement is an expectation, which often leads to disappointment. So you get their buy-in. You say, I need this. Will you do that for me? You know, will you get me those designs by the end of the day? Will you unblock that feature so I can continue working on mine? And then hopefully, you know, they say yes, or maybe they say no, and then you can have a discussion and come to a compromise. But that agreement over the expectation is vital in this, because then you know where each other stands and you've got each other's you know, compliance. So some 4 things that are going to go a long way in any of your relationships, work, romantic, with family, any of them, are compassion, understanding, acceptance, and assertiveness. And 4 things that are going to be detrimental to all of your relationships are being a doormat, contempt, victimhood, and ego. So remember those. Being a doormat, don't just get walked on and say it's okay, because eventually you're going to explode. Contempt is don't be vile, don't be you know, angry, bitter, demeaning. And then victimhood, you know, don't be like, oh, everything's been done to me, and you know, oh, I deserve to, you know, slack off or anything like that. And then ego, we all know what ego is. So that is my talk. Here's my info, michaelzick.com, Facebook, Instagram, Michael Bradley Zick, find me on LinkedIn. I write a ton on Medium, so you can check me out there. And yeah, thanks again for listening. Thanks for being here, and thanks for letting me speak.